Hello, welcome to Merrimack Valley Visions. I'm your host, Robin Ellington, with another show about your ideas, improvements, and innovations for the Valley. Here you'll meet people who have a vision to make the Valley a better place to live, work, and play. Maybe what you see here will challenge you to get involved to give back. I'm here today with Hillary Stasonis, organizer of North Andover Backyard Chickens. And welcome to the show, Hillary.
Thanks for having me.
I want to go over some of the things that you have brought to the town.
Sure.
And let's start, first of all, talking about your special guests that we have with us today.
We do have two guests with us today. Two of my chickens from home. We have a buff Orpington hen and one of my black copper Morans.
And they'll be making their appearance shortly.
They're milling about under our feet, I guess.
So would you call what you do a movement?
You know, it's hard to say that our group is a movement, but certainly we're probably part of a bigger movement. You know, nationally, backyard chickens are becoming more popular. People are interested in knowing where their food comes from. So it's kind of trendy in that regard. And I guess we've kind of hopped on that trend in town.
I know that my neighbor, for instance, is raising chickens because she didn't like the idea of the additives, the steroids that are fed to the large farm chickens, and maybe even some antibiotics, because that gets filtered down to the eggs, correct?
Correct. I'm not sure of steroid use in commercial layers, but certainly antibiotics are used all the time just because they're housed so closely together. They just give them antibiotics to prevent infection. But with a backyard chicken, you know exactly what it's eating. It probably has access to grass, the sun, bugs, ticks, lots of nutritious
Turn
things.
them loose in my yard.
Nutritious stuff.
So how did you become interested?
It was about 2 years ago. My husband and I actually moved to town 5 years ago. And we had been keeping bees and growing vegetables, and we thought this is just like the natural progression of trying to live more sustainably. And my husband called the zoning office to find out what was allowed, and we found out that they were not allowed unless you had 3 acres or more, which seemed a little absurd at the time because chickens take up a very small amount of space. So
how much space do they need?
Well, in a coop, they advise at least 4 square feet per hen. In the run, you like to have at least that much space, but as much as you can offer them is obviously best. So, so if you just had 2 hens, you know, you're talking about a very small little coop in your yard.
Okay.
So we decided then either we could get the chickens on the DL and, you know, hope nobody noticed, or I could try to gather some more supporters and see if we could change the zoning bylaw. So that's what we did.
And so you did.
And so we did.
Like the little red hen.
Yeah.
And that's what she did. Who else is with you on this?
Well, it's, you know, our group is more like a loose network of supporters of, I guess, chickens. So initially we set up a couple meetings at my house. People offered to sign petitions or put signs in their yard. But it's, you know, grown now. We have a website and a Facebook page. And there's probably about 40 to 80 people that are actively involved.
So what is your website?
NorthandoverChickens.com.
Easy to remember.
Yep. And we have a link to our Facebook page there also, so you can click on that. And that tends to be a little more, you know, where people interact. You know, they want to have a question about a chicken, or they need someone to babysit their chickens or something. So.
Oh, what a great service.
Yeah.
So on your website, will it give instructions to people who are thinking about it, provide resources?
Right, we do have
what
a resource.
The content?
Yeah, we have a resource link. Originally it was set up to facilitate information through the passing of the zoning bylaw. So we had a lot of information about zoning laws, but since then I've posted more links about chicken keeping in general. So if you have questions about how to build a coop or how to take care of chicks, day-old chicks, or whatever, we have some links there as well.
Speaking of chicks, we've got the Topsfield Fair coming up in October, and they sell chicks there, right?
You know, I'm not sure if they do or not, or if they sell fertile hatching eggs. I know they have a display of chicks hatching. You know, the most popular place in the springtime to get chicks, most people start in the spring, is the local grain stores. So like, you know, Essex County Co-op in Topsfield, Dodge Grain in Salem, New Hampshire, tend to have chicks. Because it takes them, you know, you got to have them in a brooder, and then they don't start laying until they're about 20 weeks old. So most people wouldn't start them in the fall, or they'd end up with, you know, they'd probably have to go all through the winter, and they wouldn't start laying until the next spring.
I see.
Yeah, but the Topsfield Fair is a great place to get ideas. You look at all the different breeds of chickens and see.
Decide what you want.
Yeah.
Go shopping. Take it out
window
for
shopping.
a test drive. So, do you have any projects that need funding?
Not right now, actually. We have been completely volunteer, I guess, funded. You know, anything from, you know, getting yard signs printed or legal advice. People have just donated their time or their resources. So far, we have kind of been riding free.
That's wonderful. So, where do most of the chickens in North Andover live? Do you know how many backyard chickens?
Well, we're actually in the process of trying to find that out because, you know, when you had sent me some information about what we're going to be talking about today, I realized I didn't know. So I asked on our Facebook page if people could just chime in with if they have chickens or if they know how many people you know, around them might have them. I live down on Salem Street by Sharpener's Pond Road, so more rural than some areas of town, but there's probably 7 families or so in the 2 miles, you know, around us that have chickens. So.
And I'm over in the Smolak Farm area, and we have 3 families.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I see them all the time.
Yeah, and you know, if kept properly, you won't notice the noise or the smell, and so someone could have chickens and you wouldn't necessarily know it. Yep.
And as a matter of fact, I enjoy hearing the clucking coming from the next door. I just love that sound. So you brought some photos with you today.
I did.
So I'd like to go over them with you, and you have 5 photos, and the first 2 are of chicken coops. So could you describe those chicken coops to me?
Sure. I don't know which order you have them, but we have probably a picture of a chicken tractor, which is like an A-frame chicken coop, and it's actually meant to be moved around. So that picture I sent you is one that we have in our front yard, and you can move it onto fresh grass every day or every couple days. And then we have a regular, I guess you'd call it it's sort of like a hybrid of a walk-in chicken coop and a coop on stilts. So it's the coop part where they roost at night is actually raised up off the ground, but the run is actually, you can walk into it. There's a full-size door, so you can go in and clean it out with a rake or something.
So tell me about the design principles for each of these 2 types of coops.
Sure.
They have to be easy to get into so you can remove eggs.
Right.
Which one would you recommend for
most
starters, for example?
The most popular one in like suburban or urban areas tends to be the one that's up on stilts, I call it. Generally, there's a clean out door on one side, which might be an entire side of the coop opens up, and then there's an egg door, which is usually smaller, and it's right behind the nest boxes. So you just open this little door, reach in and get the eggs. The reason that's popular to raise it off the ground is you can utilize underneath space for the run. So the footprint in your yard is very small. And then the run stays dry. In the wintertime, there's not snow in there. It's a good idea for smaller yards to have that type.
What a great idea. So how much space would you recommend for people starting out? How many chickens would you recommend?
Well, it's a good question, especially with the number of chickens, because people tend to buy more than they need. Definitely look at the breed of chicken you're interested in. Some lay more than others. So the Orpington that we have today lays about 5 eggs a week. Mine tend to be more productive than that. They're like almost an egg a day. So you have to honestly assess how many eggs you really need in your family before you buy chickens. We probably give a lot of eggs away because we got, you know, the maximum, you know, 6 chickens right away, and we don't need that many.
You are the perfect neighbor.
So. And then space. 4 square feet per hen in the coop is what's required and what most humane organizations would recommend too.
Okay, another one of your pictures is of the darker hen that you brought with you today. And what kind of hen is that?
She's a black copper Moran, and I think it was actually her sister that was brooding in the box. So hens do go broody from time to time. Some breeds do that more than others, and it means that they want to be a mama, basically. Their hormones change for whatever reason. They want to stop laying eggs and start sitting on them. So if you're
even though they don't have any yet?
Even though they're not fertilized. So we don't have a rooster, so the eggs are not fertile, but they still want to, they'll lay 4 or 5 and then stop laying and start sitting. And their behavior changes a lot. They don't come out. They sit on the nest box all day. They make kind of a hissing, growling noise.
That's the new meaning of the word brood, I'm sure.
Yeah. When you're broody, you actually do look like you're sort of contemplating something, right? Some people like to avoid broody breeds because it means they're not laying eggs. So if they're broody for 60 days, that's 60 days you're not getting any eggs. But, you know, it's a good way to, like my kids love to see her sitting on the nest every day, and we talked about what that meant and, you know, why they want to do that, and so it was educational.
What a great experience for kids, too. So then you have a picture of a brood.
A brood. Trying to remember. Oh, probably a brooder. A brooder. Yes.
Okay.
So when you get day-old chicks, or chicks in the mail, or chicks you buy at the grain store, they are not fully feathered out. They're the cute little fuzzy Easter egg, you picture in an Easter basket. So they need to be in an enclosure with a heat source until they're fully feathered out. So usually a brooder box is something made out of cardboard, or in our case plywood, pine shavings on the bottom, a heat lamp that you have on. Over time you raise it higher and higher so that
as they get taller.
Well, and also they get more feathers, so they can be a little bit cooler, they can be further away from it. Depending on the breed, when they are fully feathered, then they can go outside or away from a heat source. But they like being away from the other chickens when they're young.
So your husband built your chicken coop?
He did, in the garage, yeah.
So he found plans?
Yep, we actually looked online. Backyardchickens.com is a great resource for plans. They actually publish a book also, which has some plans, and we sort of combined two plans together. And does a lot of woodworking anyway, so he was handy for this job. But we built it in the garage, and then when it was warm enough, because he did it over the winter and the spring, and then we moved it outside and set it up in the backyard.
So how much should be budgeted for building a coop?
The sky's the limit, really. Williams-Sonoma actually sells a chicken coop now for $1,500. So if you want something really ritzy, you can get that. But if you're really on a tight budget, the best place to look is actually Craigslist to see if someone has a used coop.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people either upgrade or they're moving. I've seen them for like $200 or $300 on Craigslist.
Do you think she'd let you pick her
sure.
up right now?
Yep. Let's see if she'll want to come.
And she can meet our viewers.
They really like cranberries.
So how much room do we need in our backyards?
Well, again, using that 4 square foot per hen requirement, ours is 24 square feet for the coop space, and then we have an additional 8 feet on one side for the run. So the more you can give them, the better, of course, because they will scratch a lot in the grass, and sooner or later your run is going to become just dirt, And that's why a lot of people like the chicken tractor too. They can have a smaller tractor, move it around, give them fresh grass. They don't destroy their lawns, also.
And they get a greater access to the lawn to get rid of ticks.
Yes, they're great tick eaters.
So the cost of raising chickens versus buying eggs at the store.
A lot of people think they're going to get backyard chickens so that they can save some money. Unfortunately, that's probably not the case.
So it's more a hobby.
Yeah, it's more of a hobby. And, if you're used to buying just commodity eggs, whatever, the market basket, store brand eggs or something, it's definitely not going to be cheaper. If you're used to buying pastured, free-range, organic eggs for $7 a dozen, maybe you might break even at some point. But considering how much you spend on the coop from the get-go.
Oh my goodness, she looks so at home.
She's ready to go to sleep, I think. So.
Okay. I'll only be a few minutes longer. How do you involve your kids?
Well, I have a 3- and a 5-year-old. The 5-year-old is actually our egg collector in the morning, so he's got his own little basket, and we actually have a padlock on our coop, so he has a key, and he goes out there with it around his neck and gets the eggs.
Very responsible.
Yeah, so that's his little job.
So tell me about predators.
Yeah.
One of my neighbor's chickens were wiped out one day. An animal got into the coop. My husband heard the noise, saw what looked like a cyclone going through the coop, and there was no evidence of a break-in or that anything else was inside the coop, but the chickens were gone.
Well, predators are definitely a problem. People, we see predators even, the other day I was on the common and saw a coyote in the common. So they're even in more denser parts of town. The main mistake people make is that they use poultry wire. Even though it's called chicken wire, you should not use it for your chicken coop because the openings are too large. A mink can actually fit right through the hole. A raccoon can actually stick its hand through, pull the chicken to the wire, and eat it through the wire. So you want to use hardware cloth, which is about like a 1/2-inch opening, or welded wire side.
And that information, I'm sure, is on your website.
Yep, it is. And then, on the perimeter, making sure you have a wire under the ground, either just under the sod, about 2 or 3 feet out, to prevent digging by coyotes or raccoons. And during the day, hawks are a big, they definitely are looking for chickens if you have them out roaming your yard. It's a risk you have to take, or if they're in a run, make sure you have a cover, so either a roof or avian netting on the top so that the hawk can't swoop down and get them from the top.
That sounds like if you know what to do, it's easy to prevent.
Yeah, and I don't think they particularly attract, predators. Once a predator has come by and seen that your coop is impenetrable, they probably move on to easier targets.
Okay. So how would someone be able to call you?
Well, they can either call me. My number is 978-685-5929. And our number's on our website too, which is northandoverchickens.com.
Okay. I'm sure people will be wanting more information, so let me know later how many people call as a result of this show. I'm sure there's also some conferences, some state conferences. What would you recommend for people to go to?
Well, if they're looking for more information about chickens before getting started, the Northeast Organic Farming Association usually has a few classes.
Where are they located?
Well, they have their classes all over the state. I think the one that they're having, I think it's in kind of like Western Mass, Barrie maybe, but you can check out their website. I think it's nofa.org.
Okay.
Sometimes Nevin's Farm in Methuen will have chicken classes also. And then once you're involved in chicken keeping and you want to maybe show your birds or do a, they do a swap, if you want to swap your chicken for another chicken or you have extra chickens. The Northeast Poultry Conference, I believe it is theirs is in January. This year I think it was in Springfield, so pretty far west of here, but something to look into nonetheless.
Is there any breed in particular that you would recommend against someone trying if they're a first-time backyard chickener?
Well, a lot of the breeds are not suitable for cold weather, so I would stay away from a Mediterranean breed, or like a lot of people are attracted to the Polish chickens, which are the ones with the little the little hats on top.
Yes.
But they're not particularly cold hardy. If you're used to white eggs, the leg bars, sometimes have problems with frostbite on the comb, also because they have very large combs. But generally, the chicks that you can get around here at the grain stores, they've kind of done the research for you. They generally only offer those that are suitable for the climate.
So are you looking for volunteers? Is there anything you need done?
Well, periodically, we were at the Sheep Shearing Festival the last 2 years. It's nice to have some company under the tent. If people, have a lot of experience with chickens, or they want to bring some of their chickens, that's the kind of thing that we need, little community outreach projects from time to time.
So tell me about your experience at this year's sheep shearing.
Well, last year we weren't, we were just there to kind of share information about chickens. It was actually a week before town meeting, I believe, so chickens were not yet legal for those of us with small acreage. And this year we brought some chickens, and we had 4 chickens in a penned-in area right near the sheep shearing demonstration. And it was nonstop talking for 6 hours. We had people coming and asking lots of questions, so it was good to see that.
I appreciate the interest too. So any special events or lectures coming up?
Not that I know of. We do try to post on our Facebook page. If I hear about a chicken class or there's someone talking about a chicken-related event, I try to post it on there so people know and they can, get the word out.
What are going to be your next appearances? You went to sheep shearing. What about the next events coming
I don't
up?
know. I know there is, the National Night Out and the July 4th. I haven't made any plans to attend those, but certainly, something to evaluate in the future because we had a good interest at the Sheep Shearing Festival. Granted, that's more agricultural though, so.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah.
That's true too. But it's so much fun seeing animals at any kind of an outing, especially for families. Yeah. So do you have a wish list? Who did your website, for example?
I did it.
You did it. Okay.
Yeah, so before I became a stay-at-home mom, I was a web designer, so that was my little
everybody, take note.
But, it's been really great to have our neighbors down the road, provided some, legal advice. And we've had another gentleman who lives down on Great Pond Road, has actually been raising poultry for years, and he had a lot of advice about, chicken keeping in general. So although I sort of started the organization, I'm by no means the kind of chicken whisperer. This is, 2 years, I guess now we've been kind of in this. So there's people in town that have had chickens for a long time that we consult. Yep.
I heard earlier in the program that you are also a beekeeper.
Yes, we have 2 hives this year.
Wow.
So this is our 3rd year with bees, yeah.
So how much honey do you produce?
You know, every winter, unfortunately, we have lost our bees, so not uncommon.
That's not uncommon.
Yeah.
I have friends in New Hampshire who suffer the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think last year the nationwide average of bee loss over winter was around 34% or so, and this year's probably higher.
Wow.
Probably higher for hobby beekeepers also. But we have this year we got some bees from Vermont that were overwintered queens, overwintered, so they're hopefully adapted to New England climates a little bit better.
So any conflict between the bees and the birds?
No, in fact, we have one of our hives is right next to the chicken coop, so they don't seem to really bother one another. Now, my dog, on the other hand, she would probably eat a chicken if given the chance. So that's something another thing to think about if you're getting chickens is people think their dogs are really quiet and docile, but most dogs do have a prey drive. So you have to, figure out what's the relationship there. So if we let the chickens out, the dog has to go inside the house for sure.
Now see, my dog would go after the bees.
Yeah.
She's nuts. I mean, he's nuts. He's a boy. You said too that you don't name your chickens.
No, we don't name our chickens. We made it pretty clear like what our goals were, which was eggs and meat when they're done laying. So just to make it clear to my kids and help them understand the difference between a pet and a farm animal, we decided not to give them names. So.
Okay, so that one for all intents and purposes. That one's Buff.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me something else that I just haven't thought to ask.
Well, I guess a lot of people ask about personality of chickens. They do, even though they are not pets, they do. I was taken by surprise when we first got them. After they start laying, their behavior changes. Actually, they get a lot more docile. And when we open up the door to the coop and let them out in the yard, they come right up to the front step and sit there staring, waiting to be let in. So, and they know me as the treat lady, so they follow me all over the yard. And
so, how old are these girls?
Well, let's see. The Buff Orpington is about a year old.
Oh, she's young.
We got her right after the bylaw passed last year.
And so how long will you keep her as a layer?
Well, they lay, it depends on the chicken, but they might lay really well for the first 2 or 3 years, and then they might slowly, decrease their laying. At some point, if you're keeping them for eggs, there's like a cost-benefit analysis that happens. Like, okay, I'm feeding you this much grain every day, and you're only outputting, these many eggs. So. Now, the black copper Moran, we got her about 7. We hatched her from an egg, so she was born on September 1st of last year.
Aha.
Yeah.
And I wish that one would put in an appearance because it has the most beautiful sheen. It has red and a dark green.
And her eggs. I don't know if we can look at the eggs. I don't know if there's like any way to show them, but
oh my!
Yeah, the black copper Moran has a very dark brown egg.
It doesn't look real.
I know, it looks like chocolate.
Looks like pottery.
And but it tastes the same, looks the same on the inside, and the Buff Orpington is more like a light brown.
And that's what I see in the supermarket.
Yep. And I guess that about the age of laying and how long they lay for. A lot of people don't consider the whole life cycle of the chicken and what they're going to do with it after it stops laying. So, or what are they going to do if they get a rooster by accident? So that's something to think about.
And what does someone do?
Well, if you're really opposed to a rooster,
I'm sure the neighbors would be.
Yeah, we're not allowed to have roosters actually. So if you
and that's in the bylaw?
Yes. So
okay.
If you don't have a place to rehome a rooster, or you want to buy a sex-linked breed, like a red star or a cream leg bar. Those are guaranteed from the day they hatch to be, either female or male. They look completely different. So you wouldn't accidentally get a rooster.
You just know.
Yep, you just know.
And so have you ever had a rooster yourself?
We did, yep. We ordered 6 sex chickens, and it's about an 80% accuracy when you buy a sex chicken. But out of that 6, one of them was a rooster. So you find out around 14 weeks when they start crowing. And their feathers start to come in a little bit different. You can tell they're not, one of these things is not like the other.
So what does one do with a rooster?
In our family,
how do you replace them?
In our family, it became a table bird. So,
okay.
And other, but Nevin's Farm, for example, if you look on their website, they have tons of roosters up for adoption because people haven't considered what they might do with a rooster, and so they bring it to the MSPCA, give it up for adoption. So,
and of course they couldn't bring themselves to cooking dinner.
Right, and you know, and maybe you put it up on Craigslist, maybe you know someone who has more acreage or has a farm that could take the rooster, but even if you're allowed to have a rooster, you really can't have too many because they'll fight with one another. You put a lot of pressure on the hens for breeding. Usually I think it's like 1 rooster for 10 hens or something. So so you have to have like a plan in mind for the just in case, you
yes.
you get a rooster.
And a pecking order, you said, exists even among hens.
It does, yep. Generally, there's a boss hen who's on top, and they all kind of fall in line under her, someone at the bottom.
Is one here today?
No, I tried not to bring the boss hen, lest you pick on them in the cat carrier, but the 2 copper Morans were introduced to the flock later, so they are at the bottom of the totem pole. Yeah.
These seem to get along very well.
Yeah, they just, like when you put treats in there, or if they're fighting for a space on the roosting bar at night, they kind of squawk a bit, and you can see who's in charge because she'll chase them around.
So tell us about the treats that you brought today.
They like to eat lots of table scraps, so I brought dried cranberries, and there was mozzarella cheese in there.
Yes, the buff went through it all. It's like me when I take out cashews from mixed nuts.
Yep, and hot dogs actually are my chicken's favorite treats. So they are omnivores. They enjoy eating meat and vegetables. We feed them pretty much everything but sweets.
So you must not have a compost pile.
We do, but that's where the, there's some things like, I wouldn't give them leftover pancakes with syrup on it or something, but they do eat a lot.
Why not?
Little sweet. And onions or garlic, anything with a strong flavor, like a leftover curry.
Oh, they wouldn't like that?
It actually flavors the egg somewhat. Yeah.
Really, my son is a cook. He'd love to hear that.
Yeah. Or it might be an unwelcome surprise if you're making banana bread and you taste Indian curry.
Oh, this is true. I was thinking more in terms of omelet.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap it up today. I hate to do it because I have enjoyed so much talking to you and visiting with your chickens. I want to encourage people to contact Hillary. Please remind us again your phone number and the website.
Sure. The website is northandoverchickens.com. We have a link to our Facebook page right there too, or you can search for North Andover Backyard Chickens on Facebook. And my phone number is 978-685-5929.
And the value of the Facebook page is that it's interactive, and if you post your question, you'll get answers from everybody who's interested in the same things you are.
Yep.
So thank you again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And I thank everyone for joining us this week with a vision for the Valley, especially for your backyard and all of the other beautiful places to live, work, and play in North Andover. Thank you, television audience, for joining me this week on Merrimack Valley Visions, a show about ideas, innovations, and improvements for the Valley. If you have a vision to make this a better place to live, work, and play, I'd like to talk to you. Please call me about your ideas at 978-337-6826 or email me, rdeink@verizon.net. Then come on the show and share your vision for the Valley. Thank you for watching. I'm your host, Robin Ellington, and I'll see you next time on Merrimack Valley Visions.